Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. Here we are in my backyard and enjoying the garden. The sunflowers are blooming. They're probably almost 10 feet tall. It's absolutely amazing. I have like a forest of sunflowers in my backyard. So if you're enjoying my channel so far, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, even hit the notification bell. That way you'll get notified anytime a new video is uploaded. My name's Soleil and I garden here in Michigan in Zone 5B. So I thought I'd start by showing you this beautiful garden phlox. This is a David phlox, and it's blooming quite profusely. And for those of you who like hydrangeas, I would think you would also probably like garden phlox because it has very nice large flower heads, and they actually smell really good, most of them. So it's an excellent plant for the garden in the late summer. My potager garden is definitely keeping on growing. I'm harvesting tomatoes and peppers, and the marigolds are simply gorgeous. They're also getting really tall. I have some that are probably about 5 feet. Again, I definitely think these are more of a key lemon than a key lime, but they are really pretty, and if you like the smell of marigolds, you can't go wrong with any of them. So my Pinky Winky hydrangea is still flowering. Looks really nice. I'm enjoying all those blooms. I'm wondering how long the bloom season on that will be. You can see my Nepeta Walker's Low is starting to bloom again. And it's starting to hide the barberry plant that's in there, but the contrasting foliage is so beautiful. I'll probably let it bloom a little bit before I cut it back again. And the coneflowers everywhere are still just incredibly showy. These are starting to splay out a little bit. We've had more rain. We keep getting rain. No matter what happens, I think we're just going to keep getting rain this summer. And my Pinky Winky hydrangea is starting to bloom its little head off over here. All of my deutzia are looking quite nice. The foliage on those and the growth habit is just really pretty, and they stay in this nice compact form. They don't get too big. I do find that they like part sun instead of full sun because they will wilt a little bit in the full sun, but they're gorgeous. I love the growth habit. And you can see my Pinka Dot Flax. They're just starting to bloom out again. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that show is like when the second flush of blooms happens. I actually bought those phlox about this time last year. And they did have a really nice set of second blooms. Here's another one. And then next to it I have my coralberry plant, which has some small blooms on it that will turn into the most beautiful pink berries as the fall goes on. This bed is looking much more full than it has. I still think there's some work to do here. I'm probably going to pull out the coleus that's in this bed because it's just a little bit too much in terms of all of the variegation and the different colors of foliage there. It doesn't look good to me, so I'm gonna probably pull that coleus out. I had grown the coleus from seed, and it actually was a mix. And so I didn't really know what was going to come out of it. But it's not really working for me, so that's gotta go. However, the blooms on this Panicle Hydrangea back here are looking quite lovely, and I can only imagine how gorgeous that's going to be when it finally starts to fill in that corner there along with that Weigela. And you can see this hydrangea is putting on its new buds. So this will be its second flowering. And my shade baskets are hanging in there. Both of them are very full. And I've been pretty impressed by them. Much more impressed by those than my sun baskets. My sun baskets are not doing as well. My Hawthorne tree here is starting to develop some berries. Those are always really pretty when they turn color. So I'm looking for a spot to plant the new Brunnera that I got, the Jack Frost, which is over here. I'm thinking I'm going to put it in front of this Buddha head because I'm going to play off of the colors and the texture, the spirals in her hair with the kind of same bluish color and patterning on the leaves there. I think that will look really pretty, don't you? Now, since my last tour, the flax everywhere is really starting to bloom quite generously, and it looks beautiful. The pollinators like flax as well. They do make good bouquets. And over here in my coffee cups elephant ears plant, I also have some eggplants, and check out the growth on those. These are white eggplants, so they're a very different variety than many people are used to seeing. And they have a beautiful purple flower, which I will show right here. And the foliage is really large. And it has quite a bit of height to it, so this would be a really neat thing to have actually in a garden bed as well. My dahlias are starting to bloom. Let's go take a peek at those. I mean, some of them were starting to bloom before, but they're getting much more pronounced. So this side of the bed gets more sun than the rest. But look at those. They're beautiful and so many buds everywhere. They look really nice and healthy. Now this one, I find I'm getting all sorts of random flowers this year, you guys. Every dahlia that I bought was supposed to be pink, but that is like an orange or like a pinkish purple. So here's another one that I have here. And you can just see all of the stems and buds that are sticking up in this bed, getting ready to bloom. And I'm just dying to see this 7 sunflower bloom. The buds on it look like they're so close to starting to break. I also just noticed that my Rose of Sharon, this is the lavender chiffon version, has some blooms that are getting ready to open. That's a beautiful color. Just look at that color with the dahlias. It almost is the same color. It's gorgeous. You can see my pink marvel or rose marvel salvia down here. They are such good pollinator friendly plants. And this is my this is the butterfly bush, and this is the pugster blue, and it's definitely starting to take on some color and will be opening this week, I think, hopefully. Again, we're supposed to get more rain, which is making me a little bit crazy, you guys. And here is one of the new sunflowers. It's very hard to show them because they are so tall. I'm gonna reach my hand up as high as I can and hopefully you'll be able to see what this one looks like. If you couldn't see it, I'm sorry. Okay, let's take a walk on the Woodland Path now. I had a little fun earlier this week clipping off one of my roses and putting it into this bird bath, and you'll see a picture of that at the beginning of the video. So I just floated the bud off of the rose. And this bird bath is just surrounded by some striptease hostas that I planted really close in. So it almost looks like the bowl is nestled in the middle of one big hosta. The golden Coneflower grass is doing really well. I just transplanted some of it. And I planted one of my white powwow coneflowers over here, so we've got 2 of them now. And I just cut back my blue lobelia that is along here because it was getting a bit overgrown, so it will flush back out and put out some more blooms soon. But it was getting a little leggy, and that's when you know it's time to cut things back a bit. So also because of the fact that I had a lot of this Coneflower grass, I decided I would see what it looked like to have it incorporated as kind of an edging that hangs over the rocks. So you'll see some of it as we walk along this path, just kind of hanging over the border of rocks. And I'm interested in what you think about it. I'm going to try to let it grow on through next year and see how I like it. It may stick out too far over the rocks for me to enjoy, but I really like the idea of having something cascading over the rocks here. I just think it helps to soften the edge. But I am afraid that it might start to look a little bit messy, so we'll see. We will see. And just look at this gorgeous flax over here. That's the Laura flax, the pink one. Flax is a very tough plant. You can divide it. You can actually take cuttings of root and it will grow from the root. And the oak leaf hydrangea does seem much happier now that it's in the ground. And my hostas are doing well after they were divided. I think they're probably just about ready for another drink though. I'll come around the front over here so you can see my music box rose, which has a pretty bloom on it. One of the first ones since it's been planted out in the garden. Has kind of a yellow tone when it first comes out, and then it turns this lovely shade of pink. So I'm looking forward to what that will look like when it's got quite a few more, because it has buds on it right now, and it seems like these roses last for several days. I definitely like the longer lasting roses. And these hostas that I divided, they're all doing really well. They look really nice in their little border here. And you can see here's where I chose to plant a couple of those ultra pink flax. I have one right over here and one over here on either side of the Aster. And because this is, you know, a part sun bed, I think they're going to do really well here. And I also put one of my soapwort plants right in here as well, so you can see that. So you can see sort of as I look back how that grass might look along the edge of the path. I think it could look really pretty. And the Sun King Aurelia is doing really well. It just put out another couple of branches for me. And I added another big hosta back here because I really wanted something of a darker color, given that this is so bright. Just to kind of calm things down a little bit in this area. These beds are looking nice as well. All of the carex is definitely filling in. Now I need to fill in this spot with something. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to plant there, but that's yet to come. I do have an awful lot of new plants. Again, I think these two beds are looking pretty good. This one was just barren, you know, to begin this year with. We only had a couple of things in this side of this garden bed. And I think this is where I'm going to put those pieras that I have, because I have a couple in here already. This is one. And then the other one right down the line over there. So because the plan is to cut out this honeysuckle bush, I would like to really put a couple of the pieris right back there along the fence line to kind of cover up the fence, and it should grow about 5 feet tall, which is about the height of the fence. So that should work out pretty well. The begonias in this bed are doing quite nicely. They finally seem to have a bit of color in them. I'm just enjoying how much these beds have filled out over the course of the last couple of months. Really, they did need some sunshine though after all of the rain that we've had. I don't know why we're getting so much rain, but we definitely are. So I did move one dianthus. You saw the hole where I was saying I'm not sure where to put things. I moved this dianthus over there because it was getting too much shade over there and needed a bit more sunshine. So I thought that would look nice with the blue foliage. And I have another rose of Sharon right here. This is the same kind. This one's going to be the lavender chiffon. Oop. I don't know if you saw that butterfly, but I've got some monarchs that are coming and visiting me still. Some of the chives are still blooming, and some of the daylilies are still blooming. I'm hoping to get a whole lot more flowers out of this daylily next year, because I have 3 of them, one here, one there, and then one down there. But this year, not a ton. You can see that geranium that I planted in the back just kind of popping up over the birch leaf spirea there with such a nice contrast. With that bright green against the purple flower. And the sedums, I think they are really starting to form their flower heads. They're very full now. I think this mandevilla will be blooming soon. It has some white flower buds on it. And tucked back in the corner back there, I have an aronia, which will have some beautiful foliage color in the fall. This butterfly plant is also doing well. This is also the Pugster Blue. It has a bit of a ways to go yet before it opens, but it is starting to put some color on. I get a lot of questions about how I'm growing heucheras in the same bed as these echinacea, the purple coneflowers, and really I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I am in Michigan, and our climate, while it gets very warm in the summer, we've also had quite a bit of humidity. However, some of the heucheras are definitely getting some crispy leaves, and so I'm thinking about replacing these with perhaps some of the millennial allium when the weather starts to cool down a bit, so that I can transplant them after they've bloomed. and then moving the heucheras to a little bit more of a shady location and kind of tucking them throughout the bed behind plants. I also have another one of the ultra pink flax right here, and I planted this one here in front of the clematis because this is kind of facing southwest and will allow a little bit more shade for the roots and the bottom of that clematis. This tiny spirea is just so cute. It's so adorable. It's not going to get very big. It's probably almost at its full size. It grows really small. Miniature shrubs are amazing plants because they take very little maintenance. And as you can see, my salvias right along here, the Violet Riot, are absolutely gorgeous with the color of that barberry. Look at how those barberries glow in the sun. I'm getting some new growth on my hollies, which I think is a good sign in terms of the roots finally really digging into the soil and getting acclimated to its growing spot. All of the heucheras are still doing really well over here. Now this, in the late end part of the day, does get some shade from the hydrangeas and bushes around the fountain, which is nice. I really am liking this spirea here. This is the double play, I think it's called double play red, but its flowers are more of a deep pink, and it's getting ready to put on another set of blooms. I'm not sure if you can see the buds on them. But I'm definitely enjoying the color that that brings. It kind of ties the heucheras in as well. And I'm happy with the way that this 9-bark is coming through the two arborvitaes as they grow up. That's going to keep coming forward and just arching over. And I can trim it as necessary. And look at this hydrangea. Holy moly, those blooms, huh? That is just gorgeous. They're just like fluffy clouds. Nature is absolutely amazing. And I have quite a few Millennium Alliums that are getting ready to bloom all throughout the garden. And I'll show you, I tucked some of the tiny geranium ground covers into this garden here by the fountain. So you have another one right here. These are the Bishop's Form Rock geraniums. Such a strange name. But really the fountain area is looking quite lovely to me right now. I'm definitely enjoying it. These Mystic Spire salvias have just been prolific bloomers. And these sedum that I planted along the wall are looking really good. All of them have some new growth on them. They were so sad when I bought them, but now they're really doing a lot better. And you can see here is where I planted that rose geranium and 3 of the ground cover geraniums around it. I like that because it's really low. It won't impede my view of the gorgeous hibiscus that is growing behind it. And they should continue blooming most of the season. Here's another place where I planted some of the flax and they are starting to bloom. That's the ultra pink. And you'll see sometimes I just kind of leave some tags in the garden to help remind me what it is that I planted there. Sometimes I forget the names. So if you don't know all the names of all your plants, it's not that big of a deal. You can look them up and figure out what they are. The important part is just to know kind of what type of plant it is. Like if it's a salvia or a rose or a penstemon, because many of them in the same family will have similar growing requirements. Now this is an aster. This is an Italian aster, and it is getting ready to bloom. It will be a purplish blue color. This one did not bloom for me last year, but this year it has so many buds on it. Can't wait to see what that looks like. And these penstemon are starting to bloom for me again. You can see the bumblebees love them. My yard is definitely a pollinator magnet. I got another pasque flower, so I planted it right over here. And I'm thinking about lifting this rock up a little bit so that you can see it better. It has kind of sunken over the years, so if I kind of pull it forward and put, some soil or some wood chips underneath of it, that will help to make it a little more prominent again. And I'm still waiting on blooms on this hydrangea, you guys. But something ate a tip off right here. I don't know what, probably a rabbit. I have a rabbit in my yard. And this butterfly bush, the pink one, yay, it's finally blooming. I've been waiting so long. We just haven't had the heat that they require. And my Oscar Peterson roses are putting out a flush of new blooms right now. And I have my cat's meow nepeta over here that's blooming again with lovely little purpley blue flowers. And I get so excited whenever a new flush of these all the rage come out because it's such a beautiful color. I'm just loving this combination over here. There's so many different flowers right here. So many different kinds with the echinacea, the Cleopatra echinacea, and the verbena, the hosta, the rose, the petunias. So much to look at, and it all just looks really nice together, I think. And my false cypress here, the mophead ones, I feel like they're doing really well. They're starting to bush out a little bit more. When I bought them, they were quite lanky. I shouldn't say bought. When I got them from somebody on my neighborhood app for free, they were a little bit lanky. And so I trimmed them back a bit, and I probably will do that again next year just to kind of start creating a little bit more of a form and shape to it. But I also like how this lime thyme coleus in the back really plays off of that color. And then the brightness of the Cheyenne coneflower mix that we have here in this bed is nice. And starting to get some of the classic coral dianthus are starting to bloom again. That's exciting. It's just been too wet and not warm enough for some of the flowers to rebloom that normally do. Still getting plenty of new growth on this maple tree, and I like that it's mostly on the left hand side because the right hand side is definitely taller than the left, so it might help even it out a little bit, although I don't really mind the fact that it's kind of off kilter like that. My lavender's pretty much done blooming. I'm getting a little bit of blooms on the denim and lace here, but again, because of the lack of a great deal of sunshine and too much rain, those haven't been the happiest plants this year compared to other years. And who just doesn't love hydrangeas, right? Some more of those cute bellflowers that we have, the pantaloon bellflowers. They're so pretty. And some sedum. Okay, so this part of the yard is looking all right. You know, this bush is coming back. It's looking better than it was. It looks a little less barren, but it's definitely going to take some time for things to fill in. I'm really pleased so far with the performance of these Great Expectation hostas in the back. So I really do think they're going to grow big pretty fast. And I got these rings. I'm going to do a project with them. I'll tell you more about that another time. But they're old whiskey barrel rings. And all of a sudden overnight, this viburnum, the Eastern Snowball one, just shot up. It's got a few taller shoots. So as you can see, my Liatris hedge is still blooming. It's probably got one more week before all of the blooms are gone, and I will have to come in and cut them back. And of course my Bobo hydrangea back here. Looking super happy. And I didn't realize it, but I have a Cleopatra coneflower back here. It might have self-seeded. The Laura Flax is blooming out here as well. And the coneflower. The coneflowers are still going incredibly strong. Pollinators are all over them. Bumblebees everywhere. They just absolutely adore the coneflowers. It will be interesting for me to see how much longer they last before I have to start cutting them back. Some of them are starting to look a little bit ragged. You can see a few of them starting to dry out. I usually try to cut them back once a little bit anyways, deadheading, so that some of the flowers that have buds on them, you can see one right here, would then be able to produce a second round of flowers. One of the super performers in this garden bed is this Beard's Tongue Penstemon. It has just kept blooming and blooming, and I haven't even had to deadhead it. I'm wondering if it might self-seed. That would be wonderful because I could use more continuous blooming plants, but I also may see if I can divide it this fall. Again, at this stage, I'm going to start to wait for some cooler weather to come along. I did a little trimming on my juniper back here because it was a little bit wispy, and I wanted it to be a little bit stronger shape and form so that it contrasted with the more drapey form of the elderberry in front of it. I got some Angelica, which is really happy here. This is just an annual flower. And that one's by Monrovia. That was a clearance plant, which, as you guys know, if you watch my videos, that's one of my primary sources of plant buys is from the clearance side. I just love this Mystic Spire salvia. I'm gonna buy more of that next year if I see it. And here's where I put that Angelina sedum. It looks really pretty with the little tips of like an orangey pink rather than just being yellow and green. So these beds are looking really nice. Let's take a look at the last few. I'm trying to decide where I want to plant my hydrangeas, and I had one idea, but I'm also considering something else. Tell me what you think. What do you think? I have two Dootsy cherry blossom plants on either side of the salvia, but then I was thinking maybe right up front here on either side doing hydrangeas. But if I do that, I'm only going to see it when I'm out here from the street. So I'll tell you a little bit about the other area that I'm looking at as well. But I'm really pleased with this little vignette of flowers up front here. Everything Seems really happy. It's doing really well. You will see during this tour that I have some mums starting to come into bloom, which is freaking me out a little. This Variegated Sedum, I do not know the name. I've had this for years. I've actually brought it with me from another house that I had before I moved into this one. And it's super easy to propagate, but it also is just a really nice color to have, and it's no fuss at all. Don't need to water it, don't need to do much of anything to it. Okay, so this is the other idea that I have for a couple of the hydrangeas. I thought I would try to plant some other more sun-tolerant things in this bed, and so I tried sedum. I've got one here, and I've got one over here. Those are the Sedum Autumn Joy. But I'm actually wondering about digging those two up and putting a Bobo hydrangea in each of those spots so that it kind of comes out from under the weeping cherry tree and I can see it from inside my house when I'm looking out my front window. So what do you think of those two choices? Which one would you choose? I'm kind of thinking this area. My other option was to plant some other herbaceous perennials there, but I'd rather have a little lower maintenance. So here's the mum that is in bloom. Help! We haven't even gotten to August yet. These lava lamp heucheras are performing really well. And again, people ask me, how do you keep them from getting crispy? Well, I think it's just my zone and the fact that we've gotten plenty of water, and so I probably will need to water them more next year than this year. And last but not least, let's take a walk up by the house, see how things are looking up here. Things are growing on pretty well. Those hostas that I put in this hay rack are doing really well. I'm really happy with that, and so is the heuchera down here along with the bedazzled hostas. They took really well to their new containers, and I gave a little bit of fertilizer to this, and you can see the coleus has just burst forth, and I put a hosta in here as well with the heuchera. So I think that's going to fill out nicely. It just definitely looks a lot better than it did before. It was so empty. And now, of course, the hostas in this pot do have to fill out again, but they're growing on really well. And then I have some more hostas and that Variegated Sedum in here, the August Moon hosta, and then I cannot recall what the name of that one is. I can see that my azalea is putting on some buds already for next year, which also seems a little early to me. It's the end of July. This is a beautiful pink aster. I can't wait when that blooms in the fall. It's gorgeous. Actually, I can wait. I'd like to enjoy some more summer first, but I'm excited to see that again. Everything's growing on really well in this bed. I think I'm going to be dividing this June hosta right here. It's one of my favorites. I like the combination of the blue and variegation that it has. And I do think this is one of the bedazzled hostas. It was kind of in one of the pots with the ones I planted before, and I wasn't sure if it was the same, but I believe now that it's gotten a little bit bigger that it has the same markings on it. So that will kind of help to fill in that spot a bit. All of these hostas are really, really big. I may need to get in here and maybe divide out this one a little bit so it doesn't take over, because I really like this hellebore and I really like the foliage of it. and it goes really well with the kind of whorling texture of the leaves of the maidenhair fern that it's by. These Hosta Francis Williams are just giant this year. All of the rain has just created monster hostas. Lots of new growth still coming on my blue shadow Fothergilla. And then here everything's just kind of coming along. Now, eventually I hope that this vent here is going to be covered by foliage, because those bushes should get a little bit taller, just tall enough to be able to cover that up and yet not cover up my window. And then this 9 bark, it's growing rather slowly, so I think it's still trying really to get its roots in, and then that will help to also cover up the air conditioner and the meter read from the street. And then this final bed that I have here, I'm gonna have to do some more work on, because you can tell I have some deadheading to do, some clipping back of the Hosta flowers. But it still looks beautiful. I just gotta get in here and cut those back, and then divide out some of that gold Coneflower grass, because it's so beautiful. I'm not sure where I'm gonna put it yet. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this tour. Thanks for joining me today on the walk through the garden. Definitely let me know what you think about my ideas for where I'm going to put the bobo hydrangeas. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Have a great one. See you next time. Bye.